going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are here to wrap up stop number 2 of the Bassmaster Open EQ Series on Lake Ouachita in Arkansas. I guess I'll start out with the elephant in the room. That was probably one of my worst tournaments that I've ever been in. Holy crap. I'll start out with practice. Practice really wasn't that bad. I caught quite a few fish. I established a pretty good pattern. I established 2 patterns basically in the first couple days of practice that I figured I could run, not throughout the lake, but in that section of the lake. The thing about Ouachita is the water's really clear, but the rivers coming in got a little dirty. They had a little more color to them. I mean, there were some muddy spots, but it was just a little bit dirtier. So you had different water clarities throughout the entire lake. And I have a little more confidence when it comes to fishing like really clear water. Like I like fishing places where fish can see the bait. So that's kind of what I stuck to. I stuck down around the dam. I was live scoping fish using all my Garmin electronics. And I was also, I had a shallow cranking deal going that I figured I could get bit on. Yeah, I found those the first couple days of practice. Then the next couple days, I didn't really want to fish around those areas too much. I didn't want to pressure those fish, so I ran around and checked a little bit further. And I went around and checked a bunch of other stuff too, but I didn't want to spread myself out too much. So I didn't run all the way up the Ouachita River or any of the Iron Forks Arm. I didn't go up that way because I thought what I established was going to play into the tournament for sure. So I didn't really want to spread myself out too much. Tournament day comes around. I started out on a spot that I found them out live scoping. It was like standing timber. There was a couple flats and points with brush piles on it, all leading into a spawning pocket. And how I found this area, basically what I did is I followed a major creek arm coming off of the Ouachita River, off the river channel, because I saw a lot of bait like out in deep water. I mean, the bait was sitting anywhere from like 30 foot all the way down to like 55 to 60 foot in some areas that I found. So I just followed that main creek channel all the way into a pocket that had slower tapering banks, a lot of standing timber, and there was still bait around too. I mean, my first fish that I caught in there when I was scoping around was a 3/8. So I figured there was some better class fish. Kind of moseying my way around through these pockets, came to the mouth, and it was like everywhere you panned, there was fish there, and they were willing to bite. I mean, you'd pitch at one, and it was like, boom, 2 3/4. Okay, mosey on a little bit more. You see a single cast out there, boom, another 3-pounder. It's like, okay. So, because the thing about Ouachita is there's a lot of different fish in there. You got stripers, you got crappie, you got white bass, yellow bass, walleye. You have a bunch of different species, so I wanted to catch a couple just to be able to figure out what they were. I figured a lot. I mean, after a while, staring at the screen, you do tend to realize how the bass are grouping up in like smaller groups. So if you had like a wolf pack of stripers, like there'd be like 5 or 6 of them, they'd be coming at you hard and heavy. The bass would be in like 2 to 3, and they would just be kind of moseying around. The spots were really eager to bite. The largemouth, you normally had to get it kind of close to him to get him to go. At least that's what it was for me. Everybody else might have had a little bit different, but that's what it was for me. So on day 1 of the tournament, I get there and there's already a group of people, and what I was throwing was, it's a 1/4 ounce cast again tackle swim bait jig with a Mega Bass Spark Shad, just the little one on there in that shad pattern. This jig head has a really nice finesse owner hook on it. Super sticky. These are awesome jig heads. I only got one left here because I went through quite a bit in standing timber. But the first fish that I casted to broke off. It bit, I saw it on the screen, cast over to it, perfect presentation, bait's falling to it, just clicked the bail just so the bait was gonna sweep right past the fish. It was perfect. The fish barely had to move, and it was boom. I felt the bite, leaned into it, and there was nothing. Broke the line. Like, okay, all right. And that was just kind of the start of my day. I mean, then I lost one at the trolling motor, as you saw. If you haven't watched the full length video, well, you probably haven't watched the full length video yet because I still have to edit it. But you will see all of that footage in the full length video when I post it. Got a lot of footage to go through, and I'll get that out here quickly. But yeah, so this bait right here was a big key for me on this 1/4 ounce. I mean, I was fishing super deep, so it took a long time for it to get down there, but these fish were so weary and just, they knew what was going on. So I wanted to really lighten up as much as I could. I could keep the bait in front of them with this and give them a really good presentation. Got a lot of bites on this thing throughout the week, for sure. And then that was kind of how my tournament started. I stuck around in that area for a little bit, trying to make it happen, and it just didn't materialize, didn't happen. I did end up losing 2 more fish there, and it is what it is. Like, that's what it was. So I went to my other area where I had them cranking. Now, this was one of the biggest learning lessons for me when it came to Lake Ouachita and fishing tournaments in general. I've been doing this for a long time, and I should have known this, but I got very hard-headed, and I can't even tell you why, but it's just, it happened. I caught some fish really shallow on shallow bars on inside weed lines, throwing a lipless crankbait, being the 1/2 ounce Booyah 1 knocker on 12-pound Seagar and VizX, 6.3 gear ratio reel on a medium heavy moderate action cranking rod. And I got a lot of bites doing it, but when I found them, it was cloudy, it was raining, and the wind was blowing. Like I said before, this water's crystal clear. They can see everything. And I just didn't get any bites doing it. I tried it in those areas. I could still see fish there. I did pick up a couple things, other things, and throw it at them, like a drop shot, Nico worm, and a bunch of other presentations that I tried. Just couldn't get them to go. So on the first day, I really relied heavily on the swim bait, on these little finesse swim baits to get bites. I ended up catching 4 fish on these. And then another thing that I did employ was just like a standard straight tail. This is a Strike King Z2 on a 1/2 ounce VMC moon eye jig. Now, I don't know what it was, but for some reason it would be conditional on what they wanted to bite, the paddle tail or a straight tail. So I threw a bunch of different options at them. These weren't the only 2 options, but these were probably the biggest players during the tournament for me when it came to catching fish. So yeah, I made a bunch of different changes to a bunch of different swim baits trying to get more bites, and it just didn't happen. So you'll see it in the full length video, but my setup for this was 8-pound braid to a 6-pound Seagar and VizX fluorocarbon leader. I made it pretty long because, like I said, the water is really clear. And on a size 30 spinning reel. This wasn't the only rod I threw it on, but this is a 7.4 medium. I also threw it on a 7.4 medium light, was another one for a smaller presentation with a 3/16 ounce head. And then a 6.8 medium was another one that I was throwing the Damiki rig in the little swim bait too. But mainly stuck with the medium actions, stuck with the 8-pound braid, could cast a mile, pitching these baits in front of those fish, getting them to go. That was a big player for day 1. Day 2, conditions changed. It got cloudy. We kind of had a warmer night. I mean, it was kind of chilly in the morning at day 1. I think it was like low 40s. I think was the temperature when we took off. It was a pretty cool week, and then we had a couple warming days, and the changing conditions really just threw me for a loop, I guess. That's the best way I can put it. But I got a bite really early on the lipless in the mouth of a spawning pocket. I mean, this is just your traditional Booyah 1 knocker. I changed out the hooks, the Mustad triple grips. But yeah, definitely a staple on that lake is a red lipless crankbait this time of year. I got one good bite, caught one over almost 4 pounds, and then the rest of the day I tried to scope, these fish just got pressured. They saw everything, and almost anything I casted at them, they just wouldn't touch it. They'd come up, they'd follow it, they'd go back down. You'd get it close to them, they'd swim away. Like they just knew. These fish got smart really fast. They knew something was up. So kind of later in the day, like way too late, I finally decided, like, I'm just gonna run wind-blown banks, and I'm just gonna throw a crankbait, because I could not get bit on a Damiki rig, on a swim bait, or anything like that. I did end up catching one really small spot that barely measured on a swim bait on a little Hasdong shad. Like I said, I was changing everything. And yeah, my co-angler caught 2 fish behind me on a crankbait as I was trying to scope. So I took the hint, put the spinning rod down, and picked up the crankbait. Picked it up a little too late, lost one at the boat. On the red lipless. But yeah, that was basically the story of Ouachita. Missed opportunities, adjusting too late, just a really big learning curve. It's not a learning curve, it's just a learning tournament for me. I've been doing this for a while, and you'd think it'd be one of those things that I would know to adjust to the conditions, but it was just one of those things that I didn't. And I don't have any excuses. I was being hard-headed because of the bites that I got in practice. I mean, in practice, I could go around and throw this thing and almost catch 12 to 15 pounds at will. And I fished this one area that I had found them, just the perfect looking shoreline leading into these spawning pockets and right off of deep water. I mean, I'd catch one, it was like a 3-pounder. I'd go down, 200 yards. I'd catch another one, and I wouldn't fish between. It was just like I could get bit almost throwing this wherever. So the things that I take away from this one, being my worst finish in the past 3 years traveling around, got to learn to adjust quicker. Listen to the conditions and listen to what the fish are telling you. And you hear people say it all the time, but there has to be a point when you're out on the water, especially in a tournament situation where you've caught them a certain way in practice and it's just not working. Listen to what the fish are telling you, especially when you catch one almost 4 pounds doing something. Listen to that, run that, and see what happens. Try it for a little bit. And I mean, that was the biggest learning curve. Like I say, learning curve. It's not a learning curve. Like, I should know these things. I've been doing it for so long, for a long time, been traveling around. I mean, I fished the Bassmaster Opens 1 year, I fished the Toyota Series, then fished the Invitationals last year. You should learn to listen to the conditions. This was one of those situations that I'm relearning a lesson that I learned the hard way. I ended up in 169th place. Like I said, my worst finish in a Bassmaster Open in a really long time. I did have a 180th place finish at Lewis Smith in 2021. I caught 1 fish. That was really bad too. But I learned from that one too. And this is another one, no exceptions. I'm learning from it. Honestly, starting out the season, it's been a rough start, to say the least. I don't even know where I'm at in EQ points. I'm not really going to look. I think I'm just going to go into the rest of the season and I'm just going to go fish, because those are the times that I have the most fun. And when you kind of don't think about all the possibilities or expectations you put on yourself, you just fish differently. You fish more free, your mind is open to ideas, which in this tournament my mind was not open to any other ideas. I was going to catch them scoping, or I was going to catch them throwing a lipless. And I didn't really try anything else, which was my own fault. Another big adjustment for me coming from the Invitationals to the Opens is the 4.5 days of practice. I'm definitely going to have to make some changes to how I practice, because with the Invitationals we had 3 whole days of practice and an off day and then the tournament. In a lot of these lakes I'd never been on before, and I could break them down in 3 days and at least have something to go on for the tournament. This one, it kind of like the first 2 days of practice is when I figured out how to catch them. And then the other couple days I tried to go do something else and see what I could do, and it just didn't happen. And I expected those fish to still be there, which is my own fault, because they weren't there. I mean, I have no other excuses. It's all on me. That's the part about tournament fishing, is you can make up excuses all you want. but it's all on you to do well and to show out. But yeah, so that is my setups for the Lake Ouachita tournament. Guys, it is an absolutely incredible lake. If you guys are looking for a destination place to go fish, I mean, it's out there. It's really remote. It's very pristine. So the north end of the lake is, I can't remember if it's a state forest or a national forest, but it's the Ouachita forest, and they can't build on it. So the whole lake, except for the southern end, where like Brody Mountain, where we went out of, is untouched. The water's really clean. There's a lot of wildlife. There's loons, ducks, and bald eagles and everything flying around. There's big fish in there. There was a 10-14 weighed in by Zach Gutremont. Good job to him, man. That's stellar. I know a couple other people that lost some really big fish. I mean, there's giants that live in Lake Ouachita, and it's a really cool place to fish. I'm sure if you don't have 200 other competitor boats going around out there, you can go there and absolutely whack them. And honestly, I want to go back. I do. I want to go back, and I want to just go fun fish just to see what I can catch. Because, you know, tournament practice, you're trying to find them, so you catch a couple, then you leave. You don't really fish a spot to its full potential, and that's something that I would really like to do. But yeah, Ouachita was really cool. It's a really cool place. And going into the next tournament on Santee Cooper, I'm going to have a little bit of a different mindset. I'm there to compete. I'm there to win. Kind of how I look at it. And I know I said I'm not looking at points. I'm not going to fish that way, but it's something that I have to keep in mind because I am trying to make the Elite Series. I basically need 2 single-digit finishes to get myself back in the running to kind of cancel out my 2 triple-digit finishes that I had on Lake Okeechobee and Lake Ouachita. 7 tournaments left for the year, and I'm really looking forward to Santee. It's a different place. I was there a little bit in pre-practice. It's a monster. It can be pretty treacherous. I mean, there's a lot of stumps, a lot of wood in the water. You kind of got to be careful when you're running around, but there are some giant bass in there to be caught. And I'm really looking forward to getting out to South Carolina. I will be leaving next week to get out there and man, just go catch a bass. I'm excited for that. I think the one thing that kind of really stinks is after you have a bad tournament, what I really like to do is I like to just go fish. And this is one of those deals that I'm home, the water's still hard, the sturgeon spearing is going on right now out on Lake Winnebago. The ice is pretty sketchy, but there's still quite a few people out there trying to spear a dinosaur through the ice. So water's hard. I'm just gonna try and make sure that all my tackle is ready, spend some time with my girlfriend, spend some time with family, and I'm gonna be at the firehouse working for the next couple days. So guys, that's basically it for Lake Ouachita. Like I said, not what I wanted, not how I wanted to start the season. But these are the cards we were dealt. This is a situation I put myself in, and gosh darn it, we're going to go out and we're going to have some fun at the next couple ones and climb ourselves back up into that EQ race. We're down there right now, but you can't keep me down forever. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. Head on over to the Reel Shot and check out all the tackle that's available. They got the Spark Shads, and they also have these Cast Again jig heads. Gotta give Garmin a huge shout out for all the technology. I'm running the LV34. I have 2 Garmin 106 SVs up front, rigged with 2 different live scope transducers. One's in perspective, one's in forward. And believe it or not, the perspective version I actually did use quite a bit in really deep water because it helped me find schools of bait that were on the surface, which would kind of point me to the direction of where some fish could potentially be. Another way I used it was finding the trees that stood up a little bit higher, because it did seem like those spotted bass wanted to sit in the tree tops that were taller than the rest looking for bait fish. So huge shout out for Garmin. Sea Clear Power, of course. I mean, that power harness makes my graph super clear, so it definitely helped me pick out even spots, even crappie. I actually was able to find crappie that were like on wood. You could see a little bit of separation and you knew it was a fish. So I used that for bass, caught a lot of crappie doing that. And another shout out to Pro Guide Batteries powering everything that's in this Bass Cat this year. Definitely helping me find these fish on these places that I'd never been. Like I said, tournament results didn't show out, but we caught the crap out of them the first couple of days of practice. You can't win practice. But it was fun either way, getting to find these fish and kind of figure out what they're doing, and scoping them out in really deep water is always a good time. But like I said, guys, thanks for watching. I'll drop links down below for the Reel Shot where you can find all this stuff, for all the Garmin technology I got in the boat, Sea Clear Power and Pro Guide batteries. Next stop, Santee Cooper for stop number 3 of the Bassmaster Open EQ Series. We'll see you guys there.